Greetings and Happy New Year. Hello, Dr. Kwende.
Hi, Dr. Webb. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And it's such an honor to be here with you another month into a new year with great possibilities. How do you feel?
Well, I'm probably more excited about this year than any other. So, yeah.
Yeah, me too. And the topic that we have is thriving in and beyond 2022, putting your financial house in order. And this is a personal topic for us. And it's interesting because as we came up with this topic, the feelings that I had, actually I had goosebumps. I got chills and I just felt so much good cheer. And the smiles, I felt like even at the cellular level, I was smiling. And this notion of welcoming this year with a lot of fun and a lot of excitement and a grounded sense of responsibility is overwhelming and yet a blessing. What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel very grateful to start another year, right? I kind of, have accepted that the 2020 decade is going to be a year of dominance. So I'm just excited to see what's possible.
Yeah, me too. You know, when I think about your background, I think about my background, I think it would be ideal for us to share a little bit more about ourselves and why we believe that putting our financial houses in order is a precondition to thriving. You want to start, uh, and I'll chime in and I'll compliment you.
Yeah, sure. I guess in life, one of the things that we're talking about on this series is the five F's about faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And the truth is that, if you have those things in check, then you have good balance in life. However, the truth is, until you can fix the financial part of your life, then the faith, the family, fitness, and fun is going to be difficult to balance. So if we think about thriving, which is, prospering, doing better, then taking care of the financial, status of our lives makes a huge difference in how we're able to balance those five F's.
On point, on point. In a practical way, I'm recalling uh, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I didn't have a clue what it meant in terms of putting your financial house in order. I knew what it meant to have money to pay for basic expenses and to even look to have money to purchase discretionary items, things I didn't need but wanted. And yet it never occurred to me to plan to be in my 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s, or for that matter, if I'm so fortunate to even be in my hundreds, never occurred to me. And then as it began to occur to me, I began to do what I knew, which is not very much about financial um, um, uh, creation or growing my money or protecting my money, and let alone being able to access my money tax advantage or tax free. So I began to do things and put aside a little bit of money there. And because I'm wired, if someone comes to me and needs something, I said, "Oh, I've got discretionary money. Oh, here you go. Oh, here you go." And before you know it, I'm rebuilding again, right? I've got a lot of savings and people need something. And it was really the universe saying, "Are you serious about this?" Because if you're serious, you won't just throw it away. If you're serious, you'll get more details, you'll become educated. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't even know that things were within my reach, books that would describe certain financial products or systems or individuals with expertise. So for me, this whole journey towards so called thriving in terms of understanding the power of prospering, the power of flourishing. I mean, it really wasn't even within my paradigm. My paradigm was work, 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 give, enjoy, feel edified because I've given, and I didn't even know how to receive. So it was hard for me to even build my financial house if I didn't know how to receive. Hmm. What got you to the place where you're at right now?
Well, it's kind of pretty similar though. You know, when you grow up and you're told that all you have to do is go get educated, get a great job, and have income. So that's what you do, right? So I did that pretty well. I had a PhD at the age of 25. Then I started working in Europe. Then I moved to the US and I got married. I had kids. And then I was like, okay, that money is not like letting me be where I needed to be, right? So I actually got a financial advisor. And in the process, I started learning that you have some planning that you need to do, right? You want to plan for retirement, for the kids' college. However, after a couple of years, or probably more than that, I did not feel the difference of the planning. And I started questioning, what was truly going on. And I think what actually really opened my mind was I ended up understanding what we call the wealth equation. And all it says is that when you take your income, you subtract your lifestyle, you're going to have savings, right? So typically everyone focuses on, okay, do I have enough savings, right? The thing that they never tell you, and that's what my financial guy never told me, was that I could make more income. All he focused on was what? Cut your lifestyle so you have more things to give me to manage. It makes sense. So when I understood that, yes, I wasn't making enough money, that was the main challenge. It shifted how I think about financial, putting my financial house in order.
You and I both. And even though our life trajectories have been qualitatively different, there's so much alignment. We both were driven to pursue higher education because we were told that was an antidote to, it was a solution to whatever our problem was, right? And we did it. And we did it. I did it with a sense of urgency, and I loved it. I mean, if I could have stayed a student, a grad student, I would probably still be a grad student. I loved the whole point of learning. And then at some point, I got so uncomfortable. And that's what life does if we're fortunate. It makes us sufficiently uncomfortable where we move. And I wanted to be of service. So my life got so uncomfortable financially, I had to move. And I moved into a space where I adored, I loved. It was crazy. It was wonderful. And yet at the same time, I didn't have the financial wherewithal to even leverage whatever millions of dollars I may have made over that time. And definitely even after retiring and having a business and bringing in even more, uh, it just didn't occur to me that there would be instruments I could use that could have my money work for you, and that's work for me. And that's what you learn. We don't have to work so hard for our money. We could actually enjoy life in a way that most of us don't even, we're not even aware of. And we can have our money work harder for us. And that was the freedom solution for me, right?
Absolutely. And as you're saying that, I was just kind of thinking one of the challenges that we have every time I talk to someone about financial vehicles, they quickly jump to one thing or the other. Oh, I don't have so much growth or this. And I'm thinking like when you understand all the components of a proper financial tool, then it changes how you think about what you're using, right? So, for example, four things that usually I think everyone needs to have. If you have money in something, you have to have protection, which means you can't just lose value, right? You need to be able to grow. So you have to have some, interest, right? But also you have to be able to leverage it like income protection, and you have to protect the money from taxes. Like you need to be able to keep more of the money. I just say that to say this. Most of the time, the way that ordinary people look at financial solutions, just in general, or financial, status, misses a lot of key things, right? We put money somewhere, we don't understand the different things that you can leverage the same dollar to do, right? And I think the exposure that we have really starts to open one's mind to see beyond just the casual, right? So sometimes when I just said it because every time I talk to some people like, hey, there are tools that can help you, they jump like, oh, but it doesn't do this, right? Instead of asking what other things can you really do, they just, the one that they know, boom, that's what they jump to. So sometimes I struggle how to make sure people can listen and just understand the foundation of what we do so they can start analyzing their portfolio a little differently.
Yeah, the power of listening is no joke. We have a tendency of coming to any conversation or any situation with preconceived notions. Well, that's just the nature of being human. But the ability to listen to understand, not to just be understood, is in you can't measure that. It's powerful. And it separates wheat from the chaff. I literally separate from those who literally like to believe they have a clue from those who really do understand. And those who allow themselves to understand, oh my goodness, the vista is theirs. And so when you say what you say, it makes me remember something that you've said previously. And that is when you ask people, when was the last time you had a medical checkup? And or I say even a dental checkup. With a chip tooth, I have to go in get a checkup. And so I don't know if you can see that, folks, but it's kind of embarrassing. But we're doing this broadcast anyway. It's kind of funny. And nevertheless, and people can remember, oh, I just had my dental appointment last year, or I do an annual a medical checkup. And it's rational. And their level of confidence when they say that, it comes true and it's clear they understand the power and the importance of it, right? And then when we ask them, when was the last time you had a financial checkup, health checkup? And they're like, what? There's such a thing? I
Yeah.
mean, I did that with you a long time ago. It feels like an eon ago. It wasn't eons ago when you said, what's your FIN number? And I remember saying FIN, never heard of FIN. Is it FEN or FIN? And we find out we were talking about financial independence number. And I'd never even heard of the concept of financial independence number. And that's a precondition to knowing how you're going to get or knowing what you need to get where you want to go. I mean, everyone should know their FIN number. And we take it for granted, you and I. Now I take it for granted. And you had to learn that too. And then you begin to take it for granted, right?
Yeah.
And so it's quite curious that people, as we give them solutions, not everyone, because a lot of folks, increasingly so, thank goodness, are open to understanding and not just to bring their preconceived notions to any conversation. That's what learning is about. It's not about someone giving you something in in an empty vessel. It's about understanding that you do know a lot and then sharing with you some new information and giving you the right kind of tools to move from where you're at in that zone of proximal development to where you have the capacity to be. And so when we talk about understanding the financial system, when we talk about understanding your financial options, listening to understand is invaluable. Can you give an example? Because several coming to mind right now. An example of someone, brilliant individual, who could not hear you, at least initially, and then came back and said, "Oh my goodness, now I get it." Can you give an example so that those who are listening they can personalize this?
Yeah, I actually, I believe only this week I was talking to someone that, I talked to more than a year ago. And they were like, well, when you first talked to me, I really didn't kind of allow myself to understand where you were coming from, right? Because I came in already convinced about, for example, I had the 401k as an example, right? And I know the company is matching, and I understand the company can only give me something that's good for me, right? And I said, fine. I said, but you have to understand, if you look at the elements that are important about taxes, about growth, protection, additional leverage, you can actually assess anything that you have and see whether they meet certain, criteria or whatever. And he's like, well, now I appreciate that better because I gave myself time to really listen, right? Uh, when people come with what they already know or what they think they know, the crazy part is most of the time they don't even know what they think they know, right? And so I think as we talk about, being financially savvy, trying to put your financial house in order so you can thrive, it really boils down to helping people really understand the foundation of what is going on. Once you get the foundation, then the concepts start to make a lot more sense,
Mhm.
right? I used to think, oh, I just want my money to grow. The question is grow where? Because if I can pay a lot of it in taxes, then I don't really have the money, right? So just helping people, I think also it's partly me growing up in the understanding as well,
Mhm.
because you can only pass on what you know,
You
right? So
got it.
I think my understanding was a little limited. So the way I explained the concepts was significantly different too. But
Mhm.
now that I've gotten better, people seem to understand me more too right now.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. Well, I remember sharing with someone who's brilliant, admittedly. And then I had a brilliant person share with that person. And without going to any of the details, which are not necessary. And uh, this knowledge that was so over the top was almost oppressive, as it was described by the other on the receiving end, that all the person could do was fight it. and and that's part of the challenge too, because sometimes we're closed, we don't even know we're closed, and we're closed because we have bought into something, whatever it is, and we're so connected to it, and we believe it must be. We've placed all of our resources there, and if it's not true, that I've got this history of somehow I've got to invalidate my choices. And what we want people to know is you don't have to invalidate your history. Your history is your history. We do what we know, and hopefully we live to the level of understanding, as opposed to just kind of reducing things down to people just kind of giving us whatever we're thinking. We're making sound decisions. Yet be open to the possibilities that what you knew yesterday literally doesn't serve you today, or what you're going to learn tomorrow will be better for you going forward. And that's part of the challenge. Because sometimes it is our lack of being able to explain something in a transparent way because we're still learning. Other times it's because we're so wedded to whatever our truth is, we can't hear the other. And when we can be accepting of our truth and not negating of it, then open to other people's understanding and expertise, all of a sudden our truth transforms. We don't negate ourselves, we build upon our pre-existing knowledge in a way that advances us, right?
Yeah, and I think for most people, for me, it's almost a question of kind of perspective, right? If I come into a conversation with you, for example, I make certain assumptions, but not very many. The one assumption that I always make, and I always challenge everyone, is that everyone wants to do better for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the only assumption that I make. So, Dr. Webb, if I said that, would that be true? If
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming to conversation with you, I'm assuming you want to do well for yourself. Would that be true?
In my case, yes.
Yes. So, if that's the assumption, and I'm talking to anyone and they agree that that's the assumption, all I want them to do is listen in a way that is supposed to help them. So, if I come across as I can help them do better for themselves, then they should listen to me. If I don't, they shouldn't. But if we come with preconceived ideas about what we know and it's not necessarily serving us, what's the benefit of that? And we see that way too often, even in our normal lives, in our political lives. I mean, people believe stuff that doesn't really make sense to them, and you start to wonder, like, what's the premise of that belief, right? So for me, all I have to do to help someone is make them understand that I'm just trying to help them
Yeah.
do better for themselves. That's it, right? It's not about like a recommendation per se. It's what just helping their understanding and empower them so they can thrive and do what they really want to do.
You make me think about a previous episode where we talked about the importance and power of one actually thinking for his or herself. And we're not talking about just you've got feelings, you've got ideas, you've got assumptions, you've got biases or whatever, and you want to, postulate those or be dogmatic. We're not talking about that. We're talking about there's an onslaught of information and strategically marketed to people. And I remember when I was at Stanford and being part of a whole team where we were being trained to be developed as even uh, more insightful, thoughtful leaders. And so these professionals came in to give us some state of the art Silicon Valley leadership training, right? And I'll never forget a key part of it was Covey's, um, uh, uh, Stephen Covey's predispositions, that talks about the nature of everything comes from what? Nature. And if we just follow the natural order of things, we're more likely to be in alignment. The other is understanding that we look at the end that we want to achieve and we walk backwards. But we're also respectful to seek first to understand, then to be understood. But then we go even deeper to the individual self and ask the question, how do I continuously leverage in a way that honors me and it's not just wired? I'm not just wired because of all the socialization, of all the marketing work that's happening throughout the media, of the predisposition of one industry versus another industry to guide me and direct my course the rest of my life. So I end up giving away whatever freedoms I have. I end up giving away whatever clear, honest, healthy thinking I have. I end up giving away my soul in order to get something. And then at the end of the life, I'm saying I didn't live my fulfillment. I did, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, too many do. They literally stop living when they're 25 or stop dreaming when they're 25. And then in the graveyard, there's a significant number of unmet dreams, unmet capacity. And so here, when we're talking about thriving, what do we mean by thriving? We're talking about doing more than just whatever that is. We're talking about what Dr. Kwende, you indicated earlier. Thriving is really what we call our wealth equation. It's literally understanding our faith and living it with a sense of awe and appreciation and deep commitment and unabashed shame. It's just it's honoring our family. It's being fit, being healthy. It's definitely having fun. And I'm going to tell you about an experience I just had this weekend. And yet, at the core, if you don't have the financial matters taken care of, what happens? There's stress, undermines relationships, undermines households. And all of a sudden, you're physically in a disease state. And then what happens? Relationships break up. What happens? You don't even know how to stay focused on how to manage your resources because they become limited resources. And folks, we're not even talking about folks who just make maybe 10,000 a year, 50,000 a year, 100,000. You could be making $1 million a year or multiple millions or billions and be absolutely unhealthy, uh, have poor relationships, no faith. So you need it all financially, has to be coming from and going to something that is absolutely, what did we call it? In sync with a healthy, strong, fun filled, successful mindset. What say you, Dr. Quinte?
No, I totally agree. And this just kind of being in this mindset, trying to learn a little bit about, self, the environment, and understanding, the 5 F's has significantly shaped how I think about everything that I see.
Mhm.
And it changes, how I interact with people. When I was in a corporate job, I had a PhD, so I was doing research, but I decided to go and do an MBA. And my reasoning was that I needed to understand all the functionings of a company.
Mm.
So after my MBA, I did not get paid more money, but I had much better relationship with the different people in my company because I understood what the accountant was supposed to do, what the financial person was supposed to do, what the marketing person was supposed to do. So my interactions with them was a lot better because I understood what their challenges were. And when I interacted with them, I could give them what they were looking for. Right. So I'm just saying being able to have the right knowledge financially is a big deal because it kind of helps how we try to navigate the other aspects of our lives as well.
Mhm. Yeah. When you think of thriving during this year and beyond, what comes to mind?
Well, I mean, we just came from an environment with COVID, all the political turmoil that's going on, personal challenges, health, so many different things. And you start to go like, wow, it's about time, right? That things start to look exciting again, right? 2019, 2020, 2021, they've been kind of potentially depressing, right? But every time there are challenges, that's where there's hope if you're looking at it the right way.
Mm.
And I think that, the last 2 years have been amazing, at least for my business. But I think this year, with more people feeling more excited, it could be even better. So I'm,
That's
I'm excited about 2022 and the foundation that is setting for the whole decade.
Yeah, it's really amazing to me. Something happened to me this weekend, and thanks to uh, a gentleman that we both value immensely, he and his wife put together a retreat for a few of us and took us to the snow. I love the snow, hadn't been there in years to experience snow. Bear Valley in California, majestic location. They built this extraordinary place with two buildings outfitted for um, us, treating us like we are all royalty, feeding us, taking us on snow rides and building snowmen and laughing and dancing. And in the middle of all of that, deep training. Oh my goodness, over the top, understanding how to build and leverage, build our own businesses, leverage an existing system that is exceptional, thanks to you and other members of the executive council. And let me tell you, I was just overwhelmed with joy. What was powerful is I allowed myself to do what I encourage all of us to do. I allowed myself to literally shed. There was something in my transaction with our mentor that was the most uncomfortable and the most ultimately freeing. And I woke up the following morning and I just felt like I shed. And it's been a while since I had a deep cry, not a lot of tears, but a deep um, uh, replenishing cry, if you know what I mean. Have you ever had one of those? I mean, you've got a beautiful wife, you got those three kids. I can imagine you having them more often than not, but just where it's rejuvenating cry of appreciation and honoring and letting go and knowing that the future is exactly what I've imagined, and the universe always work in alignment with my thinking, my priorities, my feelings, my actions, and the results just compound and they get better. And so I just and I interacted with some phenomenal people, people from from different places in the country, from different ages, different sizes, different ethnicities, different genders, just different lifestyles, and it was just absolutely a gift. And so to me, my year set off to be not just remarkable, but awesome. And so thriving and knowing you're thriving in partnership, in community with people is awesome. Yeah. If I could jump up and dance right now, I'd do it, but I think I'd knock over the camera. And then people would say, okay, this is really entertaining.
Well, as I'm listening, I was just thinking that, that I want to take a moment and appreciate our mentor, Eric Olson. He's a phenomenal individual. My life used to be pretty good, right? But when I met him as a mentor, he totally changed my life. And, I tell him all the time, I say, Eric, I wish my team feels about me the way I feel about you, right? So
Yes.
it's amazing the gift that he has and his ability to give to others, right? The two things that I'm afraid to do, two main things. I can't swim, just so you guys know. So don't go around and and I don't like heights. But when I've been hanging around with him,
You've
I,
done both.
at the same time, he took me to the ocean on a 3-decker boat, and I had to jump in the water.
I
But
love it.
the amazing thing is, after you do it, your whole mindset shifts.
Do it. I could do it.
And the
Uh,
amazing thing is that he always does it with you, right? So he doesn't say go jump, he jumps too.
yes,
That's
absolutely.
very powerful, yeah. Yeah. So I just want to
Absolutely.
take a moment to appreciate him. I hope someday he gets to watch this. But Eric, I really do appreciate everything that you do and everything you've done for me, for my family, and for my community.
Yeah, he's a remarkable tool of the great spirit of God. He's a humble, uh, and natural introverted, shy man who's chose to demonstrate what it means to lead. And he believes that leading is synonymous with growth and it's synonymous with building leaders. You can't be a leader unless you're building leaders. And so, one of my biggest takeaways, and with in terms of my relationship with him and Sandra, and it's just really beginning, because I know it will get more deep, or deeper, more profound, because he is touched. He literally is touched. And you know, people who are uh, allowing themselves to be an instrument of something much more profound than themselves. And that is that is the gentleman. But he's clear, and he doesn't choose to know it all. He doesn't need to know it all. He chooses to leverage all of us. And his actions this weekend is a testament of that in so many different ways. So I compliment you, Dr. Kwende, and saying, I'm going to call him Dr. Eric, say honorary Dr. Eric. But Eric, he doesn't need to be a doctor to be who he is. He's profound. Dr. Honorable Executive Chairman Eric Olson, with your phenomenal wife, Sandra Olson, by your side, building with your dream team and the rest of us a way to help families, to ensuring no family left behind mission is actualized. I just feel so humble at this time in my life to be part of this amazing opportunity. And so, when we think about the way to put individuals' financial house in order, we want to talk about what we've done for ourselves. So we personalize this. This is not minor. This is not just, oh, we've got a complimentary set of services and leverage us at no cost. No, it's much more than that, folks. It's leverage us in order for you to build the foundation that's going to lead to your financial independence and generational wealth. Our business is about ensuring that when we're physically gone from here, that literally our legacy continues not only with our next generation, but subsequent, at least 4 or 5 generations. Because if we do the work we're supposed to do effectively here, we don't have to worry. We will transition out of this life at whatever age with a big smile, because we will have completely spent all of our resources. So we're not taking anything to the grave with us, folks. So what do you believe people benefit from in terms of putting their financial house in order?
Well, I think, really, if you think about it, everything actually boils down to that. If we go to school, we work, sorry, we study so we can have a better job, so we can have a better lifestyle, right? So at the end of the day, everybody wakes up, you want to make some income because that's how you get to take care of your family. For those of us that believe in the Bible, it says that if you cannot take care of your family, then you are worse than a sinner, right? A man that cannot take care of his family is worse than a sinner. So the point is, being able to take care of your family is a big deal. I pride myself in wanting to do the best that I can for my wife and my kids, and then the extended family after that. So I'm willing to give up everything that I've done. That's why I give up my education. I give up all the experience I have to create a foundation for generational wealth. So I can give my boys, for example, and my daughter, the opportunity to do exactly what they choose to do, what they love to do. Right. So because of that, my two boys, they love playing soccer. So I spend 4 hours every day, 4 hours sitting in my car every day of the week for my kids to go play soccer. That's what I do. Fortunately, because of the kind of business that we have, I can be doing work from my car. But I used to do this even before there was Zoom, right? Because I told myself, hey, I never had a father that would do stuff for me like that. My mother passed away when I was 16 years old, but I made a commitment that I'm going to be the best dad that I can be to my kids. Hopefully, I'm going to break the generational curse, whatever we want to call it, so that in the future, because I don't remember the name of my great grandparents. Why? Because they didn't leave me anything. But I'm hoping that my great grandkids are going to remember me. Right? So for me, it means everything to put your financial house in order, for sure. And it's not just about the money; it's about all the different aspects of like having the trust, the foundation, whatever you need to do to lay a foundation for the next generation in a way that we didn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. I want to acknowledge we typically have some comments here, and I don't want to miss them. Tomoko shared the episode makes her feel fired up for 2022. Thank us both. Thank you. And then Erner indicates, thank you so much, Dr. Webb and Dr. Kwende. Always a pleasure listening to you both. We're so appreciative to everyone who listens. And I am surprised almost every week. I'm hearing from people by email or phone saying I checked it out on later, or I saw it on television, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Well, Dr. Kwende, I want to thank you for choosing to always show up and show out in a way that informs, inspires, and leaves people with tools, so when they leave, they're able to use them right away when they leave the viewing of this broadcast, whether it's live or uh, subsequently. I just want to say, just remind people the power of knowing your financial independence number, the power of allowing us or someone to provide you with a solid financial needs analysis, and where we go deep and in ways that some people say, oh my goodness, I've never done this before. I didn't know that this was possible. And then you end up with a report that's really an intelligible report to help you make some sound decisions. And then we not only do that, we provide you with some recommendations from rather remarkable A-rated organizations. And we, in the sense, we really give you the tools so that you can do your own financial planning. We believe that you should be equipped with the right kind of knowledge to move forward in whatever way, and be able to do what Dr. Kwende and I talked about, which is take advantage of tax advantage opportunities that allow you to grow your money and protect your money. And can you imagine growing your money in a remarkable way with 10% returns annually every year instead of 1 or less than 1% in the bank, or having an extraordinary year of 38%? I know a colleague that had that. I know another colleague that's had 60% return. The power of knowing what you don't currently know in the area of financial education, I mean, it's don't allow too much time to go by before you leverage us, get the right kind of information that will help you. And so I want to share with you, with the help of Jet, behind the scenes, my remarkable lead, a visual. And it reflects a session that we're having. Actually, here it is, that we're having next week. You can scan that um, uh, QB code and join us at Leveling Up with Financial Professionals, where we will be talking about budgeting for success. This whole month for us has been around budgeting for success. So our social media post has all been about encouraging each one of us to pay attention and to go deeper than the surface. Do much more than what Dr. Kwende and I did when we were in our 20s. And if you're in your 20s and your 30s, you're going to be ahead of the game. If I knew what I know now in my 60s and I knew it in my 20s, oh my goodness, where would I be? Now, I'm not that off right now, quite frankly. Like Dr. Kwende, I've had a pretty good life. I am so fortunate. Yet, the power that I get to experience now because of financial education, you just can't touch it. It's remarkable. So, join us if you're available. This is just an hour session, and you're going to get more of the tip of the iceberg, yet you'll be able to go even deeper and leverage us. And so, you had a question for us to ask the audience, right, Dr. Kwende? And that,
Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of just thinking, at the end of the day, they say that the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask yourself.
mm, love it.
Yeah. So the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. So let me ask you some questions that you should be asking yourself. Okay. Okay. Question number one: if you have a job, for example, and I ask you the question, do you own what you do, or are you serving at someone else's pleasure? If you're going to be honest, you're probably going to say you serve at someone else's pleasure. And I want you to think about that. God put you and I on this earth. equal and we choose to serve at some other human being's pleasure,
Mm.
that's kind of crazy,
Word.
right? Next question.
Mhm.
We've been working all our life, doing everything we do, study, whatever we do, lots of work experience. Question: are you financially where you wanted to be at this point in your life? You need to ask that question to yourself. And if the answer is no, why not? Is it because you don't work hard enough?
Mm.
Next question: is your retirement set already right now? For most people, the answer is actually still no. If you have kids, is your kids' financial future set?
Mm.
Usually the answer is no. And my question is, if you keep answering those questions, no, 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 what do you think is going on?
Mm.
This is why we want to make sure that, once you challenge your thinking, you need to know how to make those questions be a yes, be affirmative. That's part of what we do. It's about really making sure you're asking yourself the real questions that we're not asking, right? When we talk about, for example, the financial need analysis, which is a foundation for creating a better financial outcome, right? It's really about 6 things. Okay. The first one is what? One, income. Do you make enough income? Because I told you about the wealth equation. The key is what? If you don't make enough income, most things will not work out. That's just the truth. Because your lifestyle is your lifestyle. We're not asking you to compromise your lifestyle. We're asking you to make enough income with proper lifestyle, and then you have savings,
Mhm.
right? So the first question: are you making enough income?
Mhm.
Second question: I already asked you. You have kids. Do you have a plan, a financial plan set up for your kids for their future? Third thing: if COVID were to happen again, do you have enough savings for like 3 to 6 months of income without work?
Mhm.
Because Omicron is still around, for at least for now,
Mhm.
right? Number four, proper protection. If some idiot hits you on the highway, you can't go to work anymore for the next 2, 3 years. How do you replace your income, right? Number five, most of us work, we put our money in the bank, we put in different financial vehicles. But let's use the bank, for example. Is your money in the bank working for you, or is it working for the bank?
Mhm.
And lastly, we need to make and preserve wealth. How do you preserve wealth? You keep more of the money from taxes, you create a legacy for your family. Do you pay the most taxes or the least? And do you have a legacy already set up for your family? If you can answer those 6 areas of your financial life, then you're going to see that there's some things that need to be fixed. That's what we allow you to do by asking the right questions and then giving you solutions to those questions. And I think for me, this is important. Why? Because when I go to the doctor and I say I'm not well, and they do diagnostics and they give me medication, I don't feel like they're selling me healthcare.
Mhm.
I hope that if I were to talk to someone one on one and I show them what we do, I want them to feel the same way, that we're helping them fill the gaps in their financial, life, rather than selling them anything.
Mhm.
And this is why I
Yeah.
say that most people cannot afford to buy because they don't have the money anyway.
Yeah. And yet I think about a friend who years over a year ago talked about, oh, I don't have much savings. This person's making pretty healthy income. Yes, in California, so it doesn't go as far, and yet a pretty healthy income. And in the classic sense, was buying what do you call it, latte twice a day, every day. Had to have her latte. And I said, and I did the simple numbers, which we've done, and it's done even before I did them. And that is showed her that over a period of time, a few years, she'd have $30,000 if she wasn't buying that latte every day. And she doesn't have to give up the latte. She can cut back. Maybe it's 3 times a week. Maybe she makes her own latte at home and save a lot of money. And so the key thing is we have a tendency of assuming we can't do something rather than imagining how we can do something. So if you want something, imagine first. Imagine that happening and then allowing yourself to be open to the possibilities of how to make that happen. When you were talking, Dr. Kwende, what came to mind were a lot of statistics. And I'm not going to ramble off all of them, but I'm going to say something. And that is the vast majority of us who retire, who believe we can retire by the age of 65 or even 70, retire with less than $60,000 to our name. Folks, that's scary. The assumption is that that's all we need. What that means is the assumption is we're not going to live long. And yet the reality is we're living longer. And that could be a good thing if we want to live longer and we've got family and we want to do things and we want to experience the world. We've worked all these years. Well, we get to travel now. Do we? And then when you look at those facts, so $60,000 a year. And if you're 65 and you end up living 85 years, it's another 20 years. How long is that $60,000 a year going to last? And so let's say your annual income was 30,000. I know I'm not talking about folks in California for the most part, although some. It was 30,000. You have 2 years of savings. And then what do? You go back to work. And so we see a lot of wonderful, beautiful, smiling folks who are in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s working at these different department stores or whatever, serving us in a brilliant way, beautiful way. And why are they there? They're not there because they want to be there. They're there because they have to be there. So what we're talking about, Dr. Kwende and I, is how to ensure that whether you're 18 now, 25, 45, 50, 60, or even in your 70s and you have some savings, how to leverage what you have where you're at in order to have that money grow, compound, access it in a way that allows you to live and ideally thrive. And then be able to leave a legacy for the family members, the loved ones, or any organization that's important to you if you find yourself or choose to be alone. All of us can add value. All of us, arguably, are in different ways adding our own unique value. Why are we not allowing ourselves to build the right kind of foundation so that we're healthy, we're successful, we believe that we're living our dream? That's what this is about. We believe you get to tell the jokes you want to tell, dance, play, go jump off a big boat, even though you can't swim for the fun of it. Throw snow, create snowmen, snow women. Go just be in the company of loved ones. Smile, be amused by life itself. Look at the lake if you're so close to it. Look at the wind as it's blowing. Experience it. That's what we want you to experience. And we want you to flourish. We want you to prosper. We want you to literally be able to understand that just because there's a condition, a situation, or a circumstance that seems to be replete with conflict and challenges, that's really a time for reflection and going deeper and clarifying what it is that you want to experience and asking yourself how you can put your financial house in order to experience that, not in another lifetime, now, later, within a reasonable time. Any thoughts, Dr. Kwende?
Yes. One of the things that I've tried to do this year, which I've been doing personally for the last few years, is the concept of having a clear business plan, which you kind of mentioned, when we talked before this call. And I don't want to quote the numbers wrong, but my understanding is that in the world, about 1% of people have a plan, and the 99% that have no plan work for the 1%.
Word.
Right. So I don't know the exact stat, but it sounds that staggering in a way, right? Because every day we wake up, whether you like it or not, you're going to work some plan. Okay. Every day we wake up, we're going to work on a plan. That's the bottom line. Okay. You cannot make income without working a plan. You're going to work some plan. The bottom line is you either work your plan or you work someone else's plan. Either way, plan is going to be worked on. So question, would you rather work someone else's plan or your plan? How do you work your plan if you don't have one? So I've spent time and I'm like, it sounds so very basic, but it's so critically important. What most people do, at least some people told me after I trained them, they're like, man, I've been writing a wish list for the last few years.
I mean, it shouldn't be funny, but it is funny. Yeah.
So in January, 1st of January, write a wish list, and then by the end of January, throw it away. You wait for the next January, you do it again. Right? But we need to have a clear plan that has certain elements that you have to have. A plan should have a clear goal, vision for what you want to achieve. You have to have a strategy to achieve the goal, and then execution steps on a daily basis and some metrics to track progress. That's a basic plan. Everyone that wants to thrive in 2022 has to have a plan, right? So I know it sounds kind of very basic, but if we're trying to help people thrive, we need to make sure that they'll thrive. They need to know what foundation you need to set in place. The same way you put your financial in order, you need to put your business life in order too. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yes, yes, yes. Emphasis, emphasis, emphasis. Yes, yes, yes. I like to remind people that each one of us is the fortune we're looking for. You are the fortune. Examine the choices you're making. Choose to imagine big things for your life and your loved ones, and live your dreams now.
When you just said that, so I was thinking, because we talk about the cash flow quadrant, right? How you make income. There's the left side where you have to trade time for money, and then the right side where you basically have to leverage, right? You can either leverage money, leverage other people's time, and for me, there's a fundamental question we need to ask every day, okay? Because everything we do is going to put us either on the left side or the right side. Okay. Everything you do in your life, you either go on the left side where you employee, self-employed, or you go to the right side where you're business owner or investor. So this is a wealth question I'm going to ask. Please write it down if you're listening to me right now. What I do right now, what I do today, me being on this call, me talking to you right now, does that put me on the left side or the right side? If you wake up in the morning, you think about what you're about to do. Right now, as you're listening, what you're about to do, does it put you on the left side or the right side? If you ask that question every day, it's going to significantly impact your actions, and those actions are going to compound into the future that you want. But for me, that's a basic question I have to ask myself all the time. What I'm about to do right now, what side is it going to put me on? Left side, right side? That's the wealth question.
That's what we call leveling up. Asking the right questions of self and expecting the right kind of information and seeking it. That's what we're calling leveling up. Yeah. What this image, and thanks to Jet for putting this together, this image just is what I feel like this year, literally soaring. And I used to, as a kid, Dr. Kwende, I used to have these flying dreams. And at will, I would love to go to sleep because I knew I would go flying someplace else. So I would like go to sleep and immediately I go into it. It felt like immediate. I don't know if it was immediate, go into a dream state, and I would just take off at will. And as long as I just took off at will and wasn't concerned about anybody else, I could go anywhere I wanted to go. And that is literally what I think was the foundation for my experiencing my remarkable life. I was that kid like you, and yet not like you. I was that kid who wasn't expected to do very much. You luckily got some messaging that says, oh, go ahead. You're expected to go to school. You're expected. I wasn't expected to. I expected to grow up on the streets. I was expected to stay in the streets. I wasn't expected to live to the age of 20. I mean, there are all these expectations. And it was quite interesting to watch these adults talk about me, around me. And I just mused, and I would go back into my little cubby hole and I would just kind of smile to myself. They have no clue. Bless them. Bless their hearts. I mean, some kids would listen to that and say, oh my God, that's the level of expectations. And so I've got to rise to those, and that's it. And they're low. Well, I did to some degree, but at some point I realized I got to break out of this nonsense. That's not me. So my circumstances were not me. And not only that, I decided I needed to experience some things to survive. And when I went to college to survive, I found that there was a whole vista. There was all this thing. This is the whole world There was history, there was sociology, there was psychology, there was the way the brain works. There was, biology and physics and quantum physics, and there was ecology, there was environmental science. I mean, I just, it was fascinating. And there were people from all over the world. I got to experience some of their customs and traditions. And I was like, what am I living small for? There's so much out there. So my point is, the thriving has to come from within. It's not just us talking about, you having goosebumps because you realize you've got capacity and you can move on. It's really about you choosing a dream, a big vision, and maybe part of a huge dream, and then you operationalize it in terms of a goal, and you pursue it because you come up with some sound strategies based upon getting expert in input. And when we mean expert, we're saying folks who've already done it and who are able to guide you. And then you literally take the actions, and you're unwavering, you're consistent, and you see the results, and you go even further. And as you achieve, you move the needle. You achieve more than you move the needle. Before you know it, you are doing things that that little 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15, 20, 30, 40-year-old could not even imagine. That's what we're talking about, thriving. Wherever you're at, you have capacity to be even greater because the greatness is already within you. Dr. Kwende?
Uh, I absolutely do agree. Yeah. I was just going to talk about the comment that Emmanuel put, because I think that's very deep. It's very easy to miss, right? So I don't know if you want to address that, but that's
Yeah,
very.
what is that? Emmanuel's right. It says most people focus only on spending, which is only 35% of their finance. You're so on. You're so on. It is time to look on the 65% of our finances, which go around taxes and interest, to take advantage over financial institutions, to take advantage of financial institutions. You're so on it. Go ahead, Dr. Kwende.
No, that's what I'm saying. We because we have limited perspective about what's going on. Most of us ordinary people just focus on the amount that we allowed to spend. But when you think about it, when you work for someone, they say that the government takes all your money and then you left with the rest. But if you own a business, you spend your money and then you pay the government the rest. So it's almost like if you have a job, then you're focusing on the 35%. But if you own a business, you have access to all your money. Then you choose to give the rest after you're done what you want to give it to charity, whatever. You have the freedom to do that. It's kind of crazy when you really think about it, right? So sometimes the information that we share, I think we get too limited in the power of what we offer, right? Because it can be very, I mean, if I'm talking to someone and they go like, oh, you're selling insurance. Yes, I do sell some insurance, but that's not what I do. My job is to financially empower the people that I talk to, so they have the freedom to choose what makes the most sense to them. Right. And I say that because when I talk to them, oh, do you sell? I'm like, no, if I'm selling to you, then you have the whole concept totally wrong, because you miss all the bigger picture of what we're trying to do.
Well, and quite frankly, what is what we do? We problem solve. We help people empower themselves. I don't believe I can ever empower anyone. Give people the tools, the information, the wherewithal, and they empower themselves. And so if people need to say that what we do is sales, I say I have no problem with that. What is sales? Effective sales is problem solving. And so if you've got a problem and we can solve it and we want to solve it and we do it complementary, leverage us. Whatever socialized feelings you have around what we do, you get to have those. We recommend you put them to the side and ask yourself how you can leverage the expertise that we can provide you. So, just like Emmanuel makes it very clear, too many of us, because we're in jobs, we focus on 35% of our income because that's all we believe we have control over. But what if you understood you really have control over 100%?
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying. Leverage 100% of your effort. You earn it. Leverage it all. Earn it in a way that honors your capacity. And you don't have to be in a particular business like financial services to actually move into the business of financial services. You just need to have the openness to learning, to be coachable, and to understand that you're going to learn some things that may be fundamentally counter or even out of the paradigm in which you have previously existed. So you're going to be moving into a new paradigm. And that's what I was trying to describe earlier. Yes, I've moved in many paradigms throughout my life, and hopefully I'll continue so that when I leave here, whatever age, whatever time, whatever condition, I am literally spent because I played with as many paradigms as possible that allowed me to thrive more and more. And we want you to do the same thing. So you could literally join us in our crusade, making certain that no family is left behind. And in our environment, oh my gosh, what do you do? The best financial service is the largest industry on the planet. Many of you may know that. And for those of you who don't know it, not only that, in the United States is the most regulated industry, which Dr. Kwende, I, and the rest of our colleagues value because we've got to give you the right information all the time, and we have to be licensed in order to do it. And not only that, here's a powerful thing that most people don't know, and that is it's the most lucrative business that there is, financial services. And it's lucrative, I believe, fundamentally, hopefully, I know in our industry it is because the tenets of whether you find it in the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, or other religious texts, Buddhism, Taoism, etc., there's this notion: the more you give, the more you receive. And our platform was built on that notion. Give, 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 unconditionally, complimentary, guide people. They make the decision, they have their plan, provide them with ongoing support throughout the relationship of whatever 20, 30, whatever number of years we're fortunate to be here. And in the meantime, we receive benefits, and the benefits come from not our clients. And that's the powerful thing without going to any of the details. The more important thing we want you to know is that you can expect health, well being, unlimited success, and happiness. You can expect that, right, Dr. Quinde? You can expect to establish and implement a written plan to manifest your big dreams, your imaginings. You can expect to leverage a mentor with a solid character, including beneficial values, who've already achieved what you want to achieve, that you imagine, has proven expertise to help you. Two other things you can do. You can prioritize generosity, likability, and integrity over greed. And you can follow one course until successful. And that's what we talk about all the time: focus. Follow one course until successful. Dr. Quinde?
No, absolutely. That was very deep what you just shared right now, and that's what for me makes 2022 very exciting. That personally, I believe I know a lot more to help other people, because at the end of the day, I only get what I want by helping other people get what they want. And I think that's part of the secret to success that we miss a lot of times. Most often we talk about our goals, which is what we want for self, right? But the truth is that the only way we get what we want is to help other people get what they want. And that's the power of, what we're teaching, some of the strategies, right? I wish that in my life when I was way younger, somebody introduced me to this concepts,
Yeah.
right? But that's why for me, I have to do everything I can in my power to make sure that as many people as possible get to listen to what we do. It's not for me about recommending for you what to do. It's about helping you know your options. That's the main thing. Once you have the foundation, it's a no-brainer. That part I know for sure, right? Because I know everyone wants to do better for themselves. So if I can help them see that, done deal. So I love what we do. I love the empowerment that we provide. I truly don't feel, and I have to share this by the way. I've been thinking if I went, say I went back to Africa where I grew up and I started a let's say Facebook or a Microsoft, guess what? Only so many people can make money from that venture still,
Mm.
right? That's the truth. However, in our WFG business, what we actually do without thinking is that for every family, husband, wife, two kids as an example, we can add 2, 3 million also. Well, 2, 3 across every family. That's crazy. I know we don't think about it like that. If we started a great company, very few people have the resources to control that company, no
That's
matter how successful it gets.
Mhm.
But in our current business, every family has a shot.
Yes. It's amazing. It's incredible. I think about a member of our organization, thanks to leadership from your team. And there's a gentleman that came here on his own, and he's bringing his family here from Africa. And he just wanted to experience the American dream. Well, people come from Mexico, they come from the Philippines, they come from Europe, they come from all over the place, from China, from wherever it is. They come from a lot of places to experience what we call the American dream. And he didn't experience the American dream. He was humble and appreciative of having a job at a local place without naming it, earning a little bit over $9 an hour, working around the clock, just appreciative that he could work. And then he came on board with us, with World Financial Group. And what has he done in less than 3 years? He is now earning, because of the many families he's helped with his team, he's now earning $2 million a year. That is seemingly incredible. And yet, folks, it's not. It's not, because it's just the nature of the business model. It's the nature of the giving model. It's the nature of really being concerned about the real big picture, which is all of us. All of us have a right to be financially independent, free to live in a way that honors our faith, honors our family, ensures we're healthy, and we're able to have fun. What if all of us, literally, were in that state across the globe at this moment? I'm going to leave you with that thought and say to you, Dr. Kwende, always, it's an absolute honor.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. I told you that I had, flirted with the idea of writing a book, but all that for me. I'd rather they hear my thinking than trying to transcribe that into words per se, right? On a piece of paper, I'd rather say it. So I really do appreciate you with this platform and your openness to inviting me monthly to share some very powerful thoughts. And I can see the impact that this conversation is having already. And I can't wait for the next decade, right? The next, 2030 is going to be amazing.
Wow. We're going to do a lot this decade. And the next decade will be a beneficiary of all the hard work, all the smart work, all the fun work that we're doing. So anyone who would love to join us, join us. And definitely anyone who would like to take advantage of this leveling up with financial professionals next week, join us. Take advantage. We're going to have some great nuggets. And I want to thank you again, Emmanuel. He says, "You are right, protecting families and their assets to sustain for generations. Imagine real estate investors following you until the graveyard to see if you left some burden that makes them profit." Oh, wow. Well, let me tell you something. If we don't watch it, because only 10% of the population has some level of financial education, 90% have some level of academic education. What happens when the $63 trillion that are changing hands right now because of the baby boomers, of which I'm a part, literally, what happens? Well, that 90% without the financial education, you already know what's going to happen. The 10% with the financial education are likely going to earn or receive or leverage what you have and consume it. And so we want everyone, wherever you find yourself, to be able to leverage good financial education. So when the assets are in your hand, whether it's real estate, whether it's, any kind of plan, we want you to be able to leverage it to be able to build the legacy in your family. So it's an honor always with you, Dr. Kwende, and also with your wife and children who support you, ensure that you're able to remain steadfast. And it's an honor to be here for all the folks who view us, whether it's live or in the future. We're all about you. We expect you to be your great self, however that's to be manifested. And at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, and throughout the day, you really are the CEO of your life. We encourage you to live it, be inspired to the degree possible, use whatever nuggets to your advantage, leverage, leverage, leverage. Live, leverage, and love.